neurodevelopmentalist and geneticist at Kennedy Krieger and Johns Hopkins. Most of my research and clinical practice is centered around Kabuki syndrome. And I am here to talk to you about a few of the research projects that I have going on. And all of these research projects are moving toward the goal of having a treatment that treats the underlying mechanism of Kabuki syndrome and addresses the neurologic, the cognitive, the behavioral aspects of Kabuki syndrome. And so the first research project is a virtual research project that anyone can do. It takes 1 hour from your computer. It's filling out a few surveys, and the surveys answer questions about sleep and behavior and general functioning in Kabuki syndrome. And this is very important because the more information that we get, the more we can design appropriate. Basically, the more we understand what we need to measure, if we were to have a clinical trial, what we need to measure to say, is this intervention working? Is the drug, medicine, diet, whatever it is, working in Kabuki syndrome? And so that's the first one. And that's open for anybody with a diagnosis of Kabuki syndrome. So if you have a molecular diagnosis of Kabuki syndrome, if you've had a genetic test that says, I have a change in either KMT2D or KDM6A, and that leads to Kabuki syndrome, and I or my child with Kabuki syndrome is 4 or older, then you can participate in that research project, the virtual one. The other 2 research projects are right now limited to people who have a mutation just in KMT2D, so the gene that causes Kabuki syndrome type 1, and are 13 years old and older. And that research project is a little more involved. It involves coming on a trip to Baltimore. In that research project, we do MRIs, which is a picture of your brain, EEGs, and some more in-depth cognitive testing with me. And that just involves a 1-day trip to Baltimore and then don't come back. The third research project is a little bit more expensive, and this is for our friends with a KMT2D mutations who are adults, so 18 and older. And this one is actually trialing an intervention in Kabuki syndrome. So in mouse models of Kabuki syndrome, it has been shown that a ketogenic diet, a special kind of high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet, can correct the deficits in the mice. So the mice that couldn't figure things out before can suddenly figure things out, the Kabuki syndrome mice, when we give them this diet. And there's a lot of reason that we think that this might work in people as well. So currently we are running a study where if you are 18 and older and you have a KMT2D mutation and you are interested, you could come to Baltimore, do that other stuff I mentioned, the MRI and the EEG and the testing, but at the same time, we also would start you on a diet. And you would go back home, you do the diet for 12 weeks, and then at the end of 12 weeks, you could come back and we do the testing all over again and we see if it changes anything. And so we're pretty excited about this, and I have been given permission to tell you that Anna Smedley, Missy's daughter, came and did this whole study with us and had some pretty great results from it. So if you are thinking about it or interested in either part, either just the MRI and EEG part or the diet part, please talk to me, please talk to Missy, and we can give you more information, pass the word on. And then the last thing I want to tell you about is something else that is super duper exciting, which is there is a pharmaceutical company in Spain named Oryzon, who has a drug that they've developed that has a lot of potential, and in animal models and cell models seems to work very well for the underlying problem in Kabuki syndrome. So what we've been talking about, that kind of holy grail of research, which is that treatment that treats the underlying mechanism. This drug from this pharmaceutical company may be it. And so I've been talking a lot with them, and in early next year, so the first half of 2022, we are going to be launching a multi-center, so multiple sites across the country, clinical trial using this medication in Kabuki syndrome. We're going to start the trial with kids 12 and older, but the intention will be to quickly, once we know it's safe and hopefully effective, to extend it to the younger populations as well. So I'm the lead investigator of that trial, and I'm also happy and willing to answer any questions about that. I'm also here if you have any questions about, research in Kabuki syndrome, clinical medicine in Kabuki syndrome, science in Kabuki syndrome. That's why I'm here, besides to have fun and have the kids play with your kids and everything, to do that for you all. So yeah, that's great. The one other thing that I wanted to tell you about is you may have seen or may not have seen on your Facebook group something about a group called All Stripes. So All Stripes is a service that we have brought to help with all of the research and help you all in the Kabuki syndrome community. And what All Stripes does is, if you register with them, it's totally free. You go online, you register with them, you go in the Kabuki syndrome page and you sign a consent that says that All Stripes has your permission to access your medical records. And then the only information that you give to All Stripes is what hospitals across the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom have you ever been seen at. You don't have to remember the names of doctors, clinics, dates, anything, just the hospitals or the system. And if you remember that, All Stripes can go and get all of the medical records for your child with Kabuki syndrome, and then you get those medical records electronically. So then you have access to your medical records anytime you go to a new doctor, anytime you do. You don't have to bring a big binder with different tabs full of medical records. You just give them a link to this All Stripes thing, and they have everything, and it's organized for them by system, by doctor, by what they want to see. And so we think this could be hugely helpful to the community, because we know how hard it is for you all to sometimes go see a new person and they don't know all the complicated history of your child. We also, while we want this for the families to have the medical records, the other purpose of this is that de-identified. Nobody will know your child's name, nobody will know your child's birthday, nobody will know anything specific, identifiable about your child, but that de-identified information, if you consent to it, would then go into a database that we can use to, again, answer these questions that currently we make you do all the legwork to answer. So some of these survey questions and understanding more about sleep and understanding more about cognitive functioning and things like that, we would have access to the de-identified, completely de-identified medical records to help with the research purposes too. So look out for that. And I think Janet Lee is going to zoom in to talk about the KSF conference that they're going to talk a little bit more about All Stripes there, as well as this Horizon trial, as well as all these other studies that I've talked to you about. But so just wanted to give you a sneak preview. Sorry that was a quick overview, but anybody who's interested in anything, I'm here. And I also, just in case, if anybody is interested in participating in the virtual study, which is again open to anybody with any type of Kabuki syndrome who's 4 and older, I have the consent forms right here. Sometimes signing these annoying consent forms is the biggest sort of barrier to getting it done. So if you're interested, I brought them, they're here, and if you wanted to do this, we could send you the links to the surveys, and again, it takes an hour, and we would love your participation. But either way, I'm just super grateful to be here and happy to see you all, and thank you for having us.